and then one other quick one too. You mentioned a lot about guardrails, and it's kind of interesting. It seems like if your portfolio goes up a certain amount, the guardrail allows you to go up that a certain amount. Like if the market went up 10%, well, your upper guardrail might go up 10%. But the lower guardrail seems to be based on a much lower number. Like you try to set those, from what I've seen, at 25%, 30% drops in the market.
Yeah.
How do you justify that? And then only take a 5% cut in spending? Is it because you're projecting those over a lot of years in the future, and so therefore you can sustain this larger 1-year cut and still, well, drop in portfolio and still be able to only cut back 5% in spending?
Man, that would be, so I'm going to do a quick plug. I'm going to answer this. I did a clip. So we released a new channel called Extra Eric Clips, I think is what it's called. It's a clips channel. And I actually answered this question in one of the clips, like maybe yesterday or 2 days ago.
Really?
So for anybody who has the same question, you can find it on there. And I don't know if it's been released or it's getting released today or tomorrow. It's like a 6-minute segment just addressing this. I will repeat a bit of it here, but also I think I'll make a longer video. And Jason, if you'd like to join a future one of these again, I would love to address that question in more detail. We'll probably do this once a month, because this warrants probably 15 minutes instead of 2, and I'd like to get the next person in the room. But really,
Absolutely.
just really briefly, there is, if you're really interested in some of the comprehension around this, if you Google search kitsis.com, you know what? I'll find the link to this white paper and make it available on the as a comment, a pinned comment under this live, and you can read it if you like, or just throw it in AI and have it give you a summary. But the very quick summary is that when research, this research paper went through people's spending adjustment behaviors across all historic market corrections and found that most spending adjustments were far in excess of what was needed. Because often what happens is we're all, like, human psychology is that we're late to making changes, or we're far too aggressive too early. And what happens is someone sees a 10% correction coming and they think a 50% correction's coming, so they make a change right away. And then the 50% correction never happens, and they never restore their spending back to full spending, or the opposite happens. In part of that's because we don't know how deep the correction's going to be. This system basically says, when we are going to superimpose your economic model over bad market scenarios and say what would have been the minimum spending adjustment that would have been needed at this point to have brought your plan back to a certain probability of not overspending the resources. And it does that on an individual plan basis. That's why the software is really useful. You could do this like manually, but obviously it's like you'd need spreadsheets and macros. It's very, very complicated. But mechanically, it is basically that when you have, let's say, a guardrail that is a 24% lower guardrail, there's 2 things there. One is for your portfolio to have a 24% correction probably means the market needs a 30 to 35% correction. So a much deeper market correction than for your individual portfolio. And that is if we assume that retirees are in, let's say, a standard 60% stock, 40% bond allocation. But the idea is that it's not about the market's correction, it's about the portfolio's adjustment. And oftentimes your individual portfolio or my portfolio will not go down as severely as the total market unless you're invested fully in the market. So there's that. Then you have this kind of a second element, which is, well, what's the probability of the market going down 35%? And most of us don't know that, but the probability is like roughly once every 10 years, right? So when you superimpose that on there, you can say, oh, it's roughly once every 10 years, which means you can so anyways, hopefully that made sense. You can start to connect these elements, which is if your portfolio has a lower guardrail of 24%, you probably need a 32% market correction. What's the probability of that happening? It's very infrequent, once every 10 years. A small spending adjustment of this type would have triaged it. The other element that's not seen is oftentimes your second lower guardrail is nearer. It's not 24%, it might be 8 or 12. So the first adjustment gives you a lot of buffer room. The second adjustment doesn't have as much. And that's because a 35% correction rarely becomes a 45. But if it does, you want to correct pretty quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't realize that. There's actually another guardrail.
Every time you trigger one, it resets. So if you trigger a lower guardrail, your upper guardrail will reset, so it's tighter, and your lower guardrail will reset. But
Uh,
you rarely see that. That's actually functionally very, very unlikely
that
because of no, we have certain standards for our plans, but someone could come up with their own standard and say, I'm comfortable with the 14% lower guardrail. You're basically inviting yourself to have multiple lower guardrail triggers much more likely, right? That's why you have to have certain minimum standards. Real quick, let me show you the exact 3-pillar comprehensive retirement roadmap that takes retirees from uncertainty to peace of mind that less than 1% of retirees actually have in place. Now, I've built hundreds of these for retirees, and I can say with a high degree of confidence that these are the 3 pillars every retiree needs to have in place in order to have full confidence that they're not missing anything in their retirement plan. And I broke each of these down by the specific questions. You can see them here that each needs to be answered and the best way to answer them. Now, we've done this across pre-retirees, recent retirees, married couples, single retirees, $1 million portfolios, $10 million portfolios, all the above, and it works. And it's my gift to you today. It's absolutely free. It's in the first link in the description below this video. It's going to say free comprehensive retirement roadmap training. Just click the link, enter your info, and you'll get instant access all for free.